I always knew my parents were frugal. They were the type to wash disposable plates and water down the ketchup. But I never realized that their frugality was actually a long-term loan shark operation, and I was the unsuspecting bourgeois. I graduated college 2 weeks ago with a degree in computer science. It was a grind. I worked part-time at the library to pay for my own books, and tuition loans covered the rest. My parents didn't contribute a dime to my education, which I was fine with. I wanted to be independent. Last Friday, I hit the jackpot. I landed a junior developer role at a major tech firm. The starting salary, $125,000 a year, plus a signing bonus. For a 22-year-old who has been living on ramen noodles and anxiety, this was winning the lottery. I drove to my parents' house that night, bursting with excitement. I bought a nice bottle of wine. I imagined my mom crying tears of joy. I imagined my dad clapping me on the back, proud that his son had made it. I walked in, grinning like an idiot. "I got it," I shouted. "The offer is official." 6 figures. My mom didn't hug me. My dad didn't smile. They were sitting at the dining room table, staring at a thick, spiral-bound binder sitting between them. "That's good, son," my dad said, his voice void of emotion. "Sit down. We have business to discuss." "Business?" I laughed nervously, setting the wine down. "Can't we celebrate first?" "Celebration costs money," Mom said sharply. "Sit." I sat. The atmosphere felt less like a family home and more like a board meeting for a failing company. Dad placed his hand on the binder. "We are proud that you have secured a high-income position. We've been waiting for this day for 22 years. It means our investment has finally matured." "Investment?" I asked. "Raising a child is expensive," Dad said, opening the binder. "Most parents throw that money away. We, however, kept records, detailed records. Since the day you were born, we have tracked every single expense incurred by your existence." He slid the binder across the table to me. The cover page read, "Repayment schedule, Alex's last name." I opened it. My jaw literally dropped. It was an Excel spreadsheet printed out. Thousands of rows. I started reading the items. October 1998, delivery room fee copay, $500. November 1998, diapers and formula month 1, $150. January 2005, broken vase incident replacement, $45. August 2010, orthodontia braces, $4,200. September 2012, ride to soccer practice gas and driver fee 12 miles at 50 cents, $6. They had charged me for rides. They had charged me a driver fee for taking me to school. I flipped to the summary page at the back. Subtotal, $112,400. Interest compounded annually at 3%, $37,600. Total DUE, $150,000. Is this a joke? I asked, looking up at them. I was waiting for the punchline. "Do we look like we're joking?" Mom asked. "We sacrificed our retirement savings to feed you. We drove old cars so you could have braces. Now that you are making $125,000, it is time to settle your debt." "Debt," I sputtered. "I didn't ask to be born." "You chose to have a child. You can't bill a kid for food and shelter. That's illegal. It's parenting." "It's a verbal contract," Dad said calmly. "We provided a service. You are the beneficiary. We have calculated a repayment plan based on your new salary. We expect 30% of your net monthly income until the debt is cleared. That should be about $2,500 a month." I looked at the invoice again. There was a line item for Christmas gifts 2008 Nintendo DS. $129.99. They were charging me for my own Christmas presents. "I'm not paying this," I said, pushing the binder back. "This is insane." "If you don't pay," Mom said, her eyes narrowing, "then you are a thief. You stole our lives, and don't think you're getting that signing bonus, either. That will serve as the down payment." I looked at these people, the people who tucked me in at night, and realized I didn't know them at all. I wasn't a son. I was a 22-year bond they were trying to cash out. "You can't sue your son for eating cereal," I yelled, my voice cracking. "That's not how the law works. You have a legal obligation to provide for a minor." Dad didn't blink. He pulled a second document out of the binder. It was a formal contract, drafted on legal paper. "Actually," he said smugly, We have consulted a lawyer friend. We can sue for unjust enrichment since you are now an adult and are refusing to acknowledge the debts incurred. It might not hold up for the food, but the loans, the car insurance, the extras, we can tie you up in court for years. We can garnish your wages before you even see them. Do you want your new employer to receive a garnishment order on your first day? My blood ran cold. He was threatening my job. He was threatening the one thing that gave me freedom. And don't forget, Mom added, crossing her arms, we have all your documents. Your birth certificate, your passport, your social security card. They are in the safe. Until you sign this repayment plan, you aren't going anywhere. That was the moment the switch flipped. I looked at my mother. I looked at the woman who used to put band-aids on my knees. There was no love in her eyes. There was only the cold, hard stare of a creditor looking at a delinquent account. I realized I couldn't win this argument. If I yelled, they would lock down. If I fought, they would sabotage my job. I had to outsmart them. I forced my shoulders to drop. I let out a long, defeated sigh. I rubbed my face to hide the calculation in my eyes. Okay, I whispered. You win. Mom and Dad exchanged a look of triumph. I need to process this, I said, my voice trembling, which wasn't hard to fake. It's a lot of money, but you're right. You did pay for everything. I guess I owe you. Now you're talking sense, Dad said, uncapping a pen. Sign here. I can't sign right now, I said, pushing the pen away gently. I'm exhausted. I've had a long week. Let me sleep on it. I'll sign it tomorrow morning over breakfast. We can set up the direct deposit then. Dad hesitated. He looked at the contract, then at me. Tomorrow morning. 8 a.m. sharp. 8 a.m., I promised. I'm going to bed. I walked to my room, the room they had billed me $500 a month for occupying since age 10. I shut the door and locked it. I didn't sleep. I waited until 2 a.m. The house was silent. I could hear my father snoring down the hall. I grabbed a duffel bag from my closet. I didn't pack clothes. Clothes are cheap. I packed what mattered, my laptop, my external hard drive. The watch my grandfather gave me, the only person who didn't view me as a stock option. I remembered what Mom said about the safe. I crept into the hallway. The floorboards creaked, and I froze, heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Nothing. The snoring continued. I went to the office. The safe was a digital keypad. I knew the code. It was my birthday. 10-24-98. Of course it was. I was their most valuable asset, after all. Beep, 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 beep. The light turned green. I opened it. I grabbed my passport, my birth certificate, my social security card. I went back to my room and slung the bag over my shoulder. I looked around the room one last time. I saw the Nintendo DS on the shelf, the one they charged me $129.99 for. I left it there. I wasn't taking anything I hadn't paid for. I opened my bedroom window. I was on the first floor. I popped the screen out, just like I used to do in high school when I snuck out to see friends. I climbed out into the cool night air. My car was parked in the driveway. Thank God the title was in my name. I bought it with my library money. I put the car in neutral and pushed it down the driveway so the engine start wouldn't wake them. Once I was down the street, I jumped in, turned the key, and floored it. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove. I drove until the sun came up. I was homeless, I was tired, and I was terrified. But as I watched the sunrise over the highway, I realized something. I had $125,000 a year coming my way. And for the first time in my life, I didn't owe anyone a single cent of it. The first week of my new life was spent in a cheap motel. I showed up to my first day at the tech firm wearing a wrinkled shirt, but I was there. I worked harder than anyone else. I had to. I had no safety net. My parents tried to find me. Oh, did they try? When they woke up to find the contract unsigned, the safe empty, and my room cleared out, they went nuclear. They called my old college. They called my friends. They even tried to call the HR department of my new company, claiming I had stolen family property, my own passport. Thankfully, I had already briefed my HR director on the situation. Security was instructed to blacklist their names. I changed my phone number. I blocked them on every social media platform. I disappeared. 5 years later, I am 27 now. I'm a senior developer. I own a condo in the city. I have a dog named Ledger, a little dark humor there. I have a life filled with friends who love me for free. I hadn't heard a whisper from my parents in years. Until last week, a letter arrived at my office. It wasn't postmarked from their home address. It was from a law firm, a bankruptcy attorney. Inside was a handwritten letter from my mother. Dearest Alex, we know we haven't spoken in a while. Things have been hard. Your father lost his job. Our retirement savings are gone. We are at risk of losing the house. The bankruptcy lawyer says we might be homeless by Christmas. We know we were strict with money before. We were just trying to teach you value, but family helps family. We need $50,000 to save the house, please. You're our only hope. Consider it an investment in your heritage. I stared at the letter. Investment. They still used that word. They still saw me as a diversified portfolio that had finally paid out. They weren't asking for love. They weren't asking for forgiveness. They were asking for a bailout. I sat down at my desk. I opened a spreadsheet. I spent 3 hours drafting my reply. I printed it on heavy, premium cardstock. I put it in a sleek envelope. And I mailed it back to their bankruptcy attorney. Here is what I sent. Invoice. From Alex, last name. To Dave and Susan, last name. Date. Today. Subject. Account closure. Emotional distress, years 1 to 22, $500,000. Therapy fees 5 years at $200. Session. $52,000. Loss of childhood joy. Priceless. Value of silence, no contact fee, $50,000. Total due, $600 to $1,000. Please deduct your previous claim of $150,000 from this total. You still owe me $450 to $1,000. I accept payment in the form of never contacting me again. Sincerely, the failed investment. The end. I heard through the grapevine that they lost the house. They moved into a small rental apartment. My dad works as a greeter at a hardware store now. Sometimes, I feel a pang of guilt. It's hard not to, but then I remember the binder. I remember the charge for the ride to soccer practice. I remember being told I was a thief for eating their food. They treated parenting like a business transaction. And as any good businessman knows, sometimes, the market crashed. I closed the ledger on them a long time ago. And my balance, it's finally in the green.